The October sun hung low over Millbrook County, casting long shadows across the weathered fence posts that marked the boundary of Nathan Wheeler's property. For 23 years, the 62-year-old farmer had worked this land alone, his calloused hands knowing every inch of the 140 acres that stretched from the gravel road to the creek bottom. The isolation suited him just fine. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Nathan had chosen solitude after his wife Margaret passed from cancer 12 years prior. Their dreams of filling the old farmhouse with children had died with her, leaving him with nothing but memories and the endless cycle of planting and harvest. He'd grown comfortable in his routines, morning coffee at 5:30, checking the cattle by 6, and spending his evenings reading seed catalogs by lamplight. That Thursday morning started like any other. Nathan pulled on his worn work boots and stepped onto the porch, surveying his domain with the practiced eye of a man who'd learned to read the land like scripture. The corn had been harvested weeks ago, leaving stubbled fields that crushed underfoot. His small herd of Angus cattle grazed peacefully in the pasture beyond the barn, but something felt different. A sound carried on the autumn breeze, faint and almost musical, like children singing. Nathan paused, his coffee mug halfway to his lips. Children? The nearest neighbor was 3 miles down the county road, and the Hendersons' kids were all grown and moved to the city. He set down his mug and listened more carefully. The sound drifted from the direction of the old apple orchard on the far side of his property, a section he rarely visited since the trees had gone wild years ago. Nathan grabbed his jacket and headed across the frost-covered grass, his breath forming small clouds in the crisp morning air. The singing grew clearer as he approached the orchard. 3 distinct voices, young and pure, harmonizing in a melody he'd never heard before. Nathan pushed through the overgrown brambles that had claimed the path, thorns catching at his jacket sleeves. What he discovered in the small clearing beyond the apple tree stopped him cold. 3 children sat in a circle. On the bare earth, their clothes little more than tattered rags. 2 girls and a boy, none of them appearing older than 10. Their hair was matted and unwashed, their faces streaked with dirt and something else, a hollow look that spoke of hunger and hardship. But it was what they were doing that made Nathan's heart skip a beat. They were eating handfuls of dirt. The oldest child, a girl with auburn hair that might have been beautiful if it had ever seen soap and water, scooped rich black soil from a small depression in the ground and brought it to her mouth with the reverence of someone partaking in communion. The other 2 followed her lead, their small hands working methodically as they continued their haunting song. Nathan stood frozen behind a gnarled apple tree, his mind struggling to process what he was witnessing. Children didn't just appear on his isolated property, and they certainly didn't eat dirt while singing like angels. The boy, who couldn't have been more than 7, looked up suddenly. His eyes, startlingly blue against his dirt-stained face, met Nathan's across the clearing. The singing stopped. "Mister," the boy said in a voice barely above a whisper, "we didn't mean to trespass on your land." The 2 girls turned toward Nathan, their expression showing no fear, only a strange kind of resignation that children shouldn't possess. The oldest girl slowly rose to her feet, brushing the dirt from her small hands. "We can go," she said. Simply, "We're used to moving on." Nathan stepped into the clearing, his throat tight with emotion he couldn't name. Up close, the children's condition was even more heartbreaking. Their clothes were held together with safety pins and hope. Their shoes were falling apart, offering little protection from the October cold. "Wait," Nathan said, his voice rougher than intended. "You don't have to go anywhere. I just what are you doing out here?" The oldest girl glanced at her companions before answering. "We're waiting," she said. "Waiting for what?" "For the angels to come back." Nathan felt something shift inside his chest. Angels? The youngest girl, who might have been 5 or 6, nodded solemnly. They told us to wait here. They said this dirt has special medicine in it, and if we eat it and sing their song, they'll come back for us. The practical farmer in Nathan wanted to dismiss such talk as childish fantasy, but looking into their earnest faces, he found himself at a loss for words. These children believed with absolute certainty in what they were saying. "Where are your parents?" Nathan asked gently. The 3 exchanged glances that carried the weight of adult understanding. The boy spoke first. "Mama went to heaven 6 months ago. Daddy said he couldn't take care of us anymore and left us at the state place. But they were going to split us up, send Emma to one family, me to another, and little Sophia somewhere else." Emma, the oldest, picked up the story. "We couldn't let them separate us. We're all we have left of each other. So we left." "You ran away from the children's home?" 3 weeks ago, Emma confirmed. "We've been walking ever since, looking for a place where we could stay together. Then, 2 nights ago, we were sleeping in the woods when the angels came." Nathan's skepticism must have shown on his face because Sophia, the youngest, stepped forward with the conviction of someone twice her age. "You don't believe us," she said matter-of-factly. "Most grown-ups don't, but they were real, mister. 3 of them, all glowing like moonlight on water. They had the kindest faces, and they told us not to be afraid. They said we'd been through enough sadness," the boy added. His name was Lucas, Nathan learned later. "They said they had a special place picked out for us, somewhere we'd never be hungry or cold or scared again." Emma nodded. "But they said we had to wait here first, in this exact spot. They said the earth here has healing power, and if we ate it and sang their song every morning, they'd know we were ready." "Ready for what?" Nathan asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. "To go home," Sophia said simply. "To go to the real home where families never get broken apart." Nathan's hands clenched at his sides. These children, in their innocence and desperation, had convinced themselves that angels were coming to take them away, likely to their deaths. They were slowly starving while waiting for a miracle that would never come. "How long since you've had real food?" he asked. "We found some berries yesterday," Lucas said. "And Emma caught a fish in the creek with her bare hands 2 days ago. We cooked it over a fire, but it wasn't very big." Nathan's heart was breaking with each word. These children had been surviving on next to nothing while clinging to a fantasy, born of desperation and trauma. "The angels told us not to worry about food," Emma explained. "They said the earth here would sustain us until they returned. And it has. We haven't gotten sick or anything." Nathan looked at the small depression, where they'd been digging up dirt to eat. His farmer's eye recognized the spot. It was where he'd spread wood ash and lime years ago to improve the soil pH. The earth there was rich with minerals, which explained why the children hadn't suffered more severe malnutrition. But eating dirt, no matter how rich, was no substitute for proper nutrition. "When did they say they'd come back?" Nathan asked. "They didn't give us an exact time," Sophia admitted. "But they said we'd know when the moment was right. They said we'd feel peaceful and ready." The implication sent a chill down Nathan's spine. These children were waiting to die, convinced that starvation and exposure were a divine calling. Their innocent faith was going to kill them. "Listen to me," Nathan said, kneeling down to their eye level. "I don't know what you saw in the woods, but I do know that you need food and shelter. Real food. A warm place to sleep. But the angels said to wait here," Lucas protested. "The angels, if they were real, wouldn't want you to suffer," Nathan replied. "They wouldn't want you eating dirt and sleeping in the cold." Emma shook her head. "You don't understand. This isn't suffering, this is preparation. The angels explained it all to us. They said earthly comfort would make us too attached to this world. They said we needed to let go of everything so we could follow them home." Nathan felt a surge of anger, not at the children, but at whatever circumstances had driven them to this desperate faith. 3 young lives were hanging in the balance, and they'd been conditioned to see death as salvation. "How about this?" Nathan said carefully. "What if the angels sent me to help you prepare? What if part of their plan was for you to get strong and healthy before they return?" The 3 children looked at each other uncertainty. Emma frowned. "They didn't mention anyone else," she said. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "Sometimes angels work through regular people," Nathan replied, surprised by his own words. He hadn't set foot in a church since Margaret's funeral, but desperate times called for creative theology. "Maybe they knew you needed someone to take care of you while you waited." Sophia tilted her head, considering this possibility. "You think the angels might have led us to your land on purpose?" "It's possible," Nathan said. "Think about it. You've been wandering for weeks, and you ended up in the one place on my property where the soil has the minerals you needed to survive. That seems like more than coincidence." Lucas's eyes widened. "Maybe that's why they told us to eat the dirt here specifically. Because they knew someone would find us who could help." Nathan seized on this interpretation. "Exactly, and if I'm supposed to help you prepare, then you need to let me give you proper food and a warm place to stay." Emma remained skeptical. "But they said not to get attached to earthly things." "Food and shelter aren't attachment," Nathan argued. "They're tools. A carpenter can't build a house without a hammer. Maybe you can't properly prepare for the angels without taking care of your bodies first." The logic seemed to resonate with the children. Their desperate need to believe in something good was stronger than their commitment to suffering. "We could stay for just a little while," Sophia said hopefully. "Until we're ready." "The angels did say we'd know when the time was right," Lucas added. "Maybe we're not ready yet because we're too weak." Emma looked torn between her protective instincts and her desperate hope for a better solution. Nathan could see her weighing the possibilities. "If we came with you," she said slowly, "could we still come back here every morning to sing the angels' song?" "Of course," Nathan replied without hesitation. "In fact, I think that's probably part of the plan. Keep up your communication with them while getting strong enough for whatever comes next." The 3 children huddled together, whispering among themselves. Nathan waited, his heart pounding with the realization that their lives literally hung in the balance of this decision. Finally, Emma straightened up and nodded. "Okay," she said, "we'll come with you. But just until the angels return." Nathan felt a mixture of relief and terror. He'd just taken responsibility for 3 traumatized children who believed they were destined for death. He had no idea how to care for kids, no legal right to keep them, and no plan beyond getting them fed and warm. But as he looked into their hopeful faces, Nathan Wheeler made a silent promise. Whatever it took, however long it took, he would find a way to give these children a reason to choose life over their angel fantasy. "Come on then," he said, standing up and extending his hands. "Let's get you home." As they walked back through the apple orchard toward the farmhouse, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that his carefully ordered solitary life had just been turned completely upside down. But for the first time in 12 years, the old farmhouse would have voices in it again, and maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what they all needed. The walk to the farmhouse felt longer than usual to Nathan, his mind racing with practical concerns he'd never had to consider. 3 pairs of worn shoes scraped against the gravel path behind him, and he found himself adjusting his pace to match their shorter strides. When was the last time he'd bought groceries for more than one person? Did he even have enough beds? The old 2-story farmhouse loomed ahead, its white paint peeling and shutters faded from years of neglect. Nathan saw it through the children's eyes for the first time in years. The sagging front porch, the screen door that hung slightly crooked, the flower boxes Margaret had installed that now held nothing but dead weeds. "It's not much to look at," he said, suddenly self-conscious about his living situation. "It's beautiful," Sophia whispered, her small hand reaching up to grasp Nathan's calloused fingers. "It looks like the houses in the storybooks Mama used to read to us." Emma studied the structure with the practical eye of someone who'd learned to assess shelter quickly. "The roof looks solid," she observed. "And there's a big garden space. You could grow a lot of food here." Nathan noticed she said, "you," not "we," still maintaining the emotional distance of someone planning to leave. But her assessment was correct. The house was structurally sound, just cosmetically tired. Lucas pointed to the old oak tree beside the house, its massive trunk easily 6 feet in diameter. "That tree's probably been here forever. I bet it's seen lots of families come and go." The comment hit Nathan harder than he expected. Margaret had loved that oak tree, had insisted they build the house where its branches would shade the kitchen window. She'd planned to hang a swing from its lowest branch for the children. They'd hoped to have the front porch creaked under their combined weight as Nathan fumbled for his keys. The children waited patiently, their hands folded in front of them like well-behaved visitors rather than refugees seeking shelter. "Welcome to Wheeler Farm," Nathan said as he pushed open the door. The interior of the house revealed 12 years of bachelor living. The furniture was functional but sparse. A worn leather recliner facing an old television. A kitchen table with only one chair, newspapers stacked in neat piles beside the fireplace. Everything was clean but showed the absence of a woman's touch, lacking the warmth and personality that Margaret had brought to every room. The children stepped inside with reverent quiet, their eyes taking in details Nathan had stopped noticing years ago. The grandfather clock in the hallway that had belonged to his parents, the faded family photographs on the mantelpiece, the kitchen with its vintage appliances and hand-painted ceramic canisters. "This is where you live all by yourself?" Lucas asked, his voice echoing slightly in the high-ceilinged rooms. "For the past 12 years, Nathan confirmed. Emma ran her fingers along the smooth surface of the kitchen counter. "It must get lonely." Nathan paused in the act of opening the refrigerator. No one had asked him that question in years, and he found himself considering the honest answer. "I guess I got used to it," he said finally. "After my wife died, quiet seemed easier than other things. Our mama used to say that quiet was just sadness that hadn't found its voice yet." Sophia offered softly, the simple wisdom of the observation. Caught Nathan off guard. He cleared his throat and focused on the contents of his refrigerator. A half-empty carton of milk, some leftover casserole from the church ladies who still occasionally checked on him, a package of lunch meat, and various condiments. "I'm going to need to make a grocery run," he said. "But first, let's get you 3 cleaned up and fed with what I have." The mention of food seemed to break through the children's polite reserve. Nathan caught Lucas's eyes lingering on the lunch. Meat with unmistakable hunger, though the boy was trying to hide it. "When did you last have a real meal?" Nathan asked gently. 4 days ago, Emma admitted. "We found a church that was serving soup, but they asked a lot of questions. We had to leave before finishing." Nathan's jaw tightened. 4 days. These children had been surviving on berries and creek water for 4 days, while convincing themselves that eating dirt was part of some divine plan. "Sit down," he said, pulling out kitchen chairs he hadn't used in months. "All of you." As the children settled around the table, Nathan found himself moving with more purpose than he'd felt in years. He pulled out bread, sandwich meat, cheese, and the last of Margaret's homemade strawberry jam. His hands worked automatically, building sandwiches while his mind processed the surreal reality of his situation. "Mr. Wheeler?" Emma's voice was hesitant. "Just Nathan," he corrected, setting plates in front of each child. "Nathan," she tried again. "If we're staying here, even just for a little while, we want to help. We're not looking for charity." Nathan paused in his sandwich making. Emma, you're 10 years old. You shouldn't have to worry about earning your keep. I'm 11, she corrected with quiet dignity. And I know how to cook and clean. Lucas is good with animals, and Sophia can mend clothes better than most adults. We've been taking care of ourselves for months. The matter-of-fact way she spoke about their situation broke Nathan's heart all over again. These children had been forced to grow up too fast, to shoulder responsibilities that should have belonged to adults. Right now, your only job is to eat, Nathan said firmly, setting the final sandwich on the table. We'll figure out everything else later. He watched as the 3 children attacked their food with controlled desperation, trying to maintain manners while clearly ravenous. Lucas finished his sandwich in under a minute, then sat staring at the empty plate as if willing another to appear. Without comment, Nathan made 3 more sandwiches. We should save some for later, Emma protested, even as her eyes fixed on the fresh food. There's plenty, Nathan assured her. Eat until you're full. It took 4 sandwiches each before the children finally leaned back in their chairs, their faces showing the first signs of contentment Nathan had seen. Color was already returning to their cheeks, and some of the hollow look was fading from their eyes. Better? Nathan asked. Much better, Sophia said, patting her small stomach. Thank you. Now, about getting cleaned up. There's a bathroom upstairs with a big tub. I'll get some towels and find you some clothes. Emma stood up immediately. We should wash our own clothes. We don't want to be a burden. Emma, Nathan said, his voice gentle but firm. Stop trying to be the adult here. You're children. My job is to take care of you, not the other way around. But the angels said, the angels, if they're real, would want you to accept help when it's offered, Nathan interrupted. They wouldn't want you to suffer unnecessarily. Lucas looked up from his empty plate. Do you think they're real, the angels? Nathan considered his answer carefully. These children's faith, however misguided, was clearly a source of comfort for them. He couldn't simply dismiss it without offering something else to believe in. I think, he said slowly, that sometimes when people are in desperate situations, they find strength in places they didn't expect, whether that's angels or something else. I don't know. But I do know that you 3 have survived things that would break most adults. That takes some kind of special help, Sophia nodded solemnly. The angels told us we were stronger than we knew. Well then, let's use that strength to get you healthy and safe, Nathan said, starting with hot baths and clean clothes. An hour later, Nathan stood in the hallway listening to the sounds of children splashing in his bathtub for the first time ever. He'd managed to find some old clothes in the attic, shirts and pants from his own childhood that his mother had saved. In mothballs. They were decades out of style but clean and warm. The washing machine churned in the basement, cleaning the children's original clothes, which had been in such poor condition that Nathan wondered if they'd hold together through the wash cycle. He'd already made a mental list of everything they'd need. New clothes, shoes, school supplies, if they stayed long enough, medical checkups, if they stayed long enough. The thought stopped him cold. What exactly was his plan here? He couldn't legally keep these children. They were runaways from state custody, and eventually, someone would come looking for them. But the alternative, sending them back to a system that had already failed them, was unthinkable. Nathan, Emma's voice called from upstairs. The water's getting cold, and Sophia's having trouble with the faucet. Coming, Nathan called back, grateful for the distraction from his spiraling thoughts. The next few hours passed in a blur of domestic activity that felt both foreign and strangely natural. Nathan found himself explaining how the old house's plumbing worked, helping Sophia figure out the vintage faucet handles, and showing Lucas where the extra blankets were stored. By evening, the 3 children were clean, fed, and dressed in oversized clothes that made them look even younger than they were. Nathan had set up makeshift beds in the spare room, the room he and Margaret had planned to turn into a nursery. This is the nicest place we've stayed since home, Lucas said, running his hand over the clean sheets. It's temporary, Emma reminded him, though her voice lacked conviction. Just until the angels return. Nathan tucked them in one by one, a routine he'd never experienced but that felt surprisingly natural. Sleep well, he said. Tomorrow we'll figure out whatever comes next. As he turned off the light, Sophia's small voice stopped him. Nathan, are you going to call the authorities on us? The question hung in the darkness. Nathan could hear the fear behind her words, the expectation of abandonment that these children carried like a permanent scar. No, he said quietly. I'm not going to call anyone tonight. It wasn't a long-term promise, but it was enough for now. He heard the collective sigh of relief from the three beds. Good night, Nathan, Emma whispered. Thank you for helping us, Lucas added. Good night, Nathan replied, his throat tight with emotion. He made his way downstairs to his own room, but sleep eluded him. Instead, he sat in his recliner, staring at the dark television screen and listening to the sounds of children settling into sleep above his head. The house felt different already, alive in a way it hadn't been since Margaret's death, but along with the warmth came a crushing weight of responsibility. 3 young lives were now depending on him, and he had no idea what he was doing. He'd managed to get them fed and safe for one night, but what about tomorrow? What about next week? And looming over everything was the children's unshakable belief that angels were coming to take them away. How long before their faith in that fantasy became dangerous again? How long before they decided they were ready and tried to find their own way to heaven? Nathan pulled out his cell phone and stared at the screen. He should call social services. He should report 3 runaway children and let the professionals handle the situation. It was the responsible thing to do. Instead, he turned off the phone and set it aside. For tonight, at least 3 children were safe and warm and fed. Tomorrow's problems could wait until tomorrow. But deep down, Nathan knew he was already in too deep to simply hand them over to strangers. Upstairs, he could hear the soft murmur of voices, the children talking quietly among themselves before sleep. Their words were indistinct, but the tone was different from the hollow resignation he'd heard in the orchard. There was something that might have been hope. Nathan leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. For the first time in 12 years, he wasn't alone in his house. And despite all the complications and uncertainties that lay ahead, he found himself grateful for their presence. Whatever happened next, at least tonight no one was eating dirt while waiting for angels. Tonight, everyone was safe. Nathan woke before dawn, as he had every day for the past 23 years. But this morning, something was different. The house held a stillness that wasn't quite silence, the subtle presence of other people breathing, shifting, existing in the spaces that had been empty for so long. He dressed quietly and made his way to the kitchen, muscle memory guiding him through his usual routine. Coffee first, then a check of the weather through the window above the sink. The thermometer read 38 degrees, and frost sparkled on the grass like scattered diamonds. As the coffee brewed, Nathan found himself listening for sounds from upstairs. The children had been exhausted when they finally settled down, but trauma had a way of making sleep elusive. He wondered if they'd actually rested or if they'd spent the night whispering plans to slip away before he could betray their trust. The coffee was strong and black, the way he'd learned to like it during his years of solitary mornings. He took his first sip and nearly choked when a small voice spoke from the doorway. "Morning, Nathan." Sophia stood in the kitchen entrance, wearing one of his old flannel shirts that hung down to her ankles like a nightgown. Her hair was still damp from last night's bath, and she clutched a small bundle against her chest. "You're up early," Nathan said, setting down his mug. "We always get up early," Sophia replied matter-of-factly. "We have to sing to the angels at sunrise. It's important." Nathan felt his heart sink. He'd hoped that one night of safety and comfort might begin to shake their dangerous faith. But clearly, their belief system ran deeper than physical need. "Where are Emma and Lucas?" "Getting dressed. We'll be ready in a minute." Sophia held up her bundle, and Nathan realized it was the tattered remains of her original clothes. "Can we go to the orchard now? The angels will be waiting." Before Nathan could respond, footsteps clattered down the stairs. Emma appeared first, her hair braided with surprising neatness, followed by Lucas, who was still struggling with the buttons on a shirt that was too big for his thin frame. "Good morning, Nathan," Emma said politely. "Thank you for letting us stay the night. We're ready to go back to our place now." Nathan studied their faces, seeing determination mixed with something that might have been disappointment. They'd enjoyed the comfort of his home, but their sense of mission was stronger than their desire for ease. "What if I came with you?" Nathan heard himself say. The three children exchanged surprised glances. "You want to hear the angel's song?" Lucas asked. "I want to understand what's important to you," Nathan said carefully, "and I want to make sure you're safe." Emma frowned. "We don't need protection. The angels watch over us." "Maybe," Nathan said, "but I'd feel better being there anyway." The walk to the orchard was different in the pre-dawn darkness. Nathan carried a flashlight, but the children moved with the confidence of people who'd memorized every root and branch. They led him through the overgrown path without hesitation, their feet finding solid ground where his stumbled. The clearing looked smaller in the flashlight beam, more ordinary. But as Nathan watched the children arrange themselves in their familiar circle, he began to understand the power this place held for them. It wasn't just about angels, it was about ritual, about having something they could control when everything else in their lives had been chaos. "You have to turn off the light," Sophia said gently. "The angels don't like artificial things." Nathan clicked off the flashlight, and the world became a canvas of grays and deep shadows. The eastern horizon showed the faintest hint of pink, and the air held that particular stillness that comes just before sunrise. "Now we wait," Emma whispered. They sat in absolute silence for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Nathan found himself holding his breath, straining to hear whatever the children expected to hear. His knees began to ache from sitting on the hard ground, and he wondered how three young children managed this discomfort every morning. Then, as the first ray of sunlight broke through the apple trees, they began to sing. The melody was unlike anything Nathan had ever heard, hauntingly beautiful and somehow ancient, as if it had been passed down through generations of believers. The children's voices blended perfectly, creating harmonies that seemed to make the air itself vibrate with emotion. Nathan felt tears prick his eyes, though he couldn't say why. The song wasn't in any language he recognized, but it conveyed longing, hope, and a desperate kind of love that transcended words. These children were pouring their entire hearts into this moment, believing with absolute certainty that they were communicating with divine beings. As the last note faded into the morning air, they sat in expectant silence. Nathan watched their faces, seeing them strain to detect some response, some sign that their message had been received. Nothing happened. The disappointment was subtle but unmistakable. Sophia's shoulders sagged slightly. Lucas's hands clenched into small fists. Emma's jaw tightened with the effort of maintaining faith in the face of another unanswered prayer. "Maybe they're busy this morning," Sophia said quietly, but her voice lacked conviction. "Or maybe they're testing our patience," Emma added, though she sounded like she was trying to convince herself. Nathan wanted to gather them all in his arms and tell them that angels didn't work that way, that faith didn't require this kind of suffering. But he'd learned enough about children to know that attacking their beliefs directly would only make them hold on tighter. "That was beautiful," he said instead. "The song. Where did you learn it?" "The angels taught it to us," Lucas said. "That first night in the woods, they sang it, and somehow we just knew it." Nathan nodded, filing this information away. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. Your mother would have been proud. Emma's eyes filled with tears at the mention of their mother. Mama used to sing to us every night. She had the most beautiful voice. She still does, Sophia said firmly. She's singing with the angels now. Sometimes I think I can hear her voice mixed in with theirs. Nathan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. These children weren't just waiting for angels. They were waiting to be reunited with their deceased mother. Their faith wasn't about salvation. It was about ending a grief too big for young hearts to carry. Tell me about your mother, Nathan said gently. The invitation opened a floodgate. As they walked back to the farmhouse, the children shared memories of a woman who'd clearly been their whole world. Sarah Mitchell had been a single mother working 2 jobs to keep her small family together. She'd read them stories every night, helped with homework by lamplight, and made holidays special with creativity instead of money. She got sick really fast, Emma said, her voice steady but her eyes bright with unshed tears. One day she was fine, and the next day she could barely get out of bed. The doctor said it was her heart, but I think it was just tired from working so hard. She made us promise to stay together no matter what, Lucas added. She said we were stronger as a team than we'd ever be apart. That's why we couldn't let them split us up, Sophia concluded. We made a promise. Nathan felt the weight of their stories settling on his shoulders. These children hadn't just lost a parent, they'd lost their entire world. The foster system had failed them, their father had abandoned them, and now they were clinging to a supernatural solution, because all the earthly ones had proven unreliable. Back at the farmhouse, Nathan made breakfast while the children sat at the kitchen table, their mood subdued after another morning of unanswered prayers. He scrambled eggs and fried bacon, filling the house with the smell of a proper meal. You don't have to keep feeding us, Emma said, through her eyes following every movement of the spatula. I know I don't have to, Nathan replied. I want to. But we're supposed to be preparing, Lucas said uncertainty. The angels said earthly pleasures would make us too attached to this world. Nathan set plates in front of each child, then pulled up a chair to join them. Can I tell you what I think about that? They nodded, forks poised over their eggs. I think, Nathan said carefully, that any angels worth following would want you to be healthy and strong. I think they'd want you to experience love and kindness. And full bellies. I don't think they'd want you to suffer. But suffering makes us pure, Emma said, repeating what was clearly a learned response. Who? Nathan challenged gently. Your mother worked herself to death, trying to give you good lives. Do you think she wanted you to suffer after she was gone? Sophia set down her fork. Mama always said we deserved every good thing in the world. Then maybe, Nathan said, taking care of yourselves is a way of honoring her memory. Maybe being happy is what she'd want most. The children ate in thoughtful silence, and Nathan could see the internal struggle playing out on their faces. Their angel fantasy was a form of protection, a way to make sense of senseless loss. But it was also a form of self-destruction, and some part of them knew it. After breakfast, Nathan made a decision that surprised even him. I need to go into town today, he said. Shopping, errands, that sort of thing. Would you like to come with me? The children exchanged uncertain glances. We should stay here, Emma said, in case the angels come back. What if they don't come back today? Nathan asked. What if they expect you to live your lives while you wait? It was a subtle reframing, but Nathan could see it taking root. The idea that waiting didn't have to mean suffering, that they could maintain their faith while still engaging with the world. I suppose we could come for a little while, Emma said slowly. As long as we're back before evening. Of course, Nathan agreed. We'll be back in plenty of time. The trip to town was a revelation. Nathan had been going to the same stores, talking to the same people, following the same routines for over a decade. But seeing Millbrook through the children's eyes made it feel like a different place entirely. At the clothing store, he watched them marvel at the displays of new clothes, their fingers touching soft fabrics with reverent care. The saleswoman, Martha Chun, noticed their worn appearance and offered to help with sizes and colors. "These your grandchildren?" she asked Nathan quietly. "Something like that," Nathan replied, not wanting to explain the complicated truth. He bought them each several outfits, plus new shoes and winter coats. The children protested the expense, but Nathan ignored their objections. For the first time in years, he had something worthwhile to spend his money on. At the grocery store, Nathan let them help choose items for the week's meals. They selected ingredients carefully, still thinking like people who'd known hunger. But gradually, their choices became more adventurous. Lucas picked out apples because he remembered his mother making apple pie. Sophia chose hot chocolate mix because she'd always wanted to try it. Emma selected ingredients for a stew she remembered helping her mother make. "We could cook for you," she offered, "to pay you back for all this." "I'd like that," Nathan said, "but not to pay me back. Just because it would be nice to have a home-cooked meal made by someone who cares." As they loaded groceries into Nathan's truck, a familiar voice called out across the parking lot. "Nathan Wheeler, haven't seen you in town for weeks." Pastor James Hartwell approached with his usual warm smile, but his expression shifted when he noticed the children. Nathan felt a moment of panic. James was a good man, but he was also a mandatory reporter. If he suspected these children were in trouble, double quotes James, Nathan said carefully. "Good to see you." "And who might these young people be?" James asked, his eyes taking in their new clothes and the obvious care they'd been given. Emma stepped forward with surprising poise. "I'm Emma Mitchell, and these are my brothers Lucas and Sophia. We're staying with Mr. Wheeler for a while." "Mitchell," James repeated thoughtfully. "That name sounds familiar. Are you related to Sarah Mitchell? She used to clean the church before she passed." The children's faces lit up with recognition and grief. "That was our mama," Sophia said softly. James's expression softened with understanding. "I remember her well. She was a good woman, and she loved you children very much. She used to talk about you all the time." "You knew our mama?" Lucas asked. Eagerly, "I did indeed. She was one of the kindest people I ever met." James looked from the children to Nathan with growing comprehension. "I see you found yourselves in good hands." Nathan held his breath, waiting for the questions that would come next. Where had these children been since their mother's death? Why weren't they in school? What was their legal status? Instead, James simply smiled. "Well, it's wonderful to see you all. Nathan, you should bring them by the church sometime. I think they'd enjoy meeting some of the other families." "Maybe we will," Nathan said, surprised by the man's discretion. As James walked away, Emma tugged on Nathan's sleeve. "He really knew our mama?" "Sounds like it," Nathan said. "And he seemed to think very highly of her." "Maybe that's a sign," Sophia said hopefully. "Maybe meeting him means we're supposed to be here." Nathan didn't point out that this was the first time any of them had suggested they were supposed to be anywhere other than the orchard waiting for angels. Instead, he just smiled and opened the truck door. "Maybe it is," he said. The drive home was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet than the hollow silence of the morning. The children stared out the windows at the familiar landscape, but Nathan could see them looking at it with new eyes, not as temporary visitors, but as people who might have a place here. As they turned into the driveway of Wheeler Farm, Nathan realized that somewhere during the day, his thinking had shifted too. These weren't just children he was helping temporarily. These were children who belonged here, who were already becoming part of the fabric of his life. The question was whether he could convince them to stay long enough to realize it themselves. 3 days passed in a rhythm that surprised Nathan with its naturalness. The children maintained their morning ritual in the orchard. But the rest of their days were filled with ordinary activities that seemed to ground them in the present moment. Emma helped with cooking, revealing a talent for seasoning that made even simple meals taste extraordinary. Lucas discovered an affinity for the barn cats and spent hours in patient conversation with Nathan's small herd of cattle. Sophia appointed herself the house's official organizer, rearranging bookshelves and folding laundry with meticulous care. But on Saturday morning, everything changed. Nathan woke to find Emma sitting at the kitchen table, her face pale and her hands trembling around a cup of tea she'd made for herself. The other children were nowhere to be seen. "Where are Lucas and Sophia?" Nathan asked, pouring his own coffee. "Still sleeping," Emma replied, but her voice carried a weight that made Nathan look at her more carefully. "What's wrong?" Emma set down her cup with deliberate precision. "I had a dream last night about the angels." Nathan felt his stomach drop. Over the past few days, he'd begun to hope that the children's faith in their supernatural rescue was fading. They'd seemed more engaged with daily life, more willing to make small plans for the future. But dreams had a way of reinforcing beliefs that reality was slowly eroding. "What kind of dream?" Nathan asked carefully. "They came to me," Emma said, her eyes fixed on something Nathan couldn't see. 3 of them, just like before. But this time they weren't glowing. They looked ... sad. Nathan sat down across from her, his full attention focused on her words. "They told me we were losing our way," Emma continued. "They said we were becoming too attached to earthly comfort, too distracted by temporary pleasures. They said if we didn't recommit to our purpose soon, they might have to leave without us." The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. Just when the children were beginning to heal, their trauma was reasserting itself in the form of subconscious guilt about feeling happy. "Emma," Nathan said gently, "dreams can feel very real. But they're not always." "It wasn't just a dream," Emma interrupted, her voice fierce with conviction. "I know the difference." This was a message. Nathan studied her face, seeing the internal war between her growing attachment to their new life and her desperate need to maintain faith in something greater. The past few days of comfort had created cognitive dissonance that her mind was resolving by doubling down on her angel beliefs. "What did they say you should do?" Nathan asked. "Fast," Emma said simply. "Stop eating the rich food and go back to the earth's provision. Stop sleeping in soft beds and return to nature. Stop letting earthly concerns distract us from spiritual preparation." Nathan felt anger rising in his chest, not at Emma, but at whatever combination of trauma and desperation had created this self-destructive framework. "And Lucas and Sophia? Do they know about this dream?" "Not yet, but I have to tell them. We made a pact to stay together and follow the angel's guidance no matter what." Nathan leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. He could forbid them from fasting, but that would only drive them to sneak away entirely. He could try to reason with them, but their faith was rooted in emotion, not logic. He needed a different approach. "Before you wake them up," Nathan said slowly, "would you be willing to do something for me?" Emma looked suspicious. "What?" "Let me make breakfast for all of us one more time. And while I cook, tell me more about your mother." "I don't see how that humor an old man," Nathan said. "If the angels are calling you back to fasting, then this would be your last meal here anyway. What harm could it do?" Emma considered this, then nodded reluctantly. "I suppose one last meal wouldn't hurt." As Nathan prepared pancakes and bacon, he listened to Emma talk about her mother with a mixture of love and grief that broke his heart. Sarah Mitchell had been only 28 when she died, leaving behind 3 children who'd been her entire world. She'd worked at a diner during the day and cleaned offices at night, sleeping only 4 or 5 hours between shifts. "She never complained," Emma said. "Not once. Even when she was so tired she could barely stand, she'd still help us with homework and read us stories. She sounds like an amazing woman, Nathan said, flipping pancakes with practiced ease. She was. That's why we have to honor her memory by following the angel's path. She's with them now, and if we're pure enough, faithful enough, we'll get to see her again. Nathan served the pancakes, then sat down with his own plate. Emma, can I ask you something? She nodded, cutting her pancakes into precise squares. Do. You think your mother would want you to be hungry? It's not about what she'd want, Emma said. It's about what's necessary for spiritual purity. But your mother loved you, Nathan pressed. She worked herself to exhaustion to make sure you were fed and safe and happy. Do you really think she'd want you to give up food and shelter now? Emma's fork paused halfway to her mouth. The angel said, The angels, Nathan interrupted gently, might not be who you think they are. The words hung in the air between them. Emma set down her fork, her eyes flashing with anger and hurt. You don't believe us, she said. You think we're making it all up. I believe you saw something, Nathan said carefully. I believe you heard something. But Emma, you were 3 traumatized children alone in the woods at night. Your minds might have created what you needed to survive. You're wrong, Emma said, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Maybe I am, Nathan conceded. But what if I'm not? What if your mother is the one sending you messages, not through dreams about angels, but through the opportunity to have a real home? What if this is her way of taking care of you? Emma stared at her plate, tears beginning to slide down her cheeks. But if there are no angels, then Mama is just ... gone. Nathan's throat tightened with emotion. No, sweetheart. Your mother lives on in you. In the way you take care of Lucas and Sophia. In your strength and your kindness and your determination to keep your family together. That's not angels. That's her love working through you. But I miss her so much, Emma whispered. I know. You do, and missing someone you love that much is normal. It's healthy. It means you were lucky enough to have someone worth missing. Emma broke down completely then, years of suppressed grief pouring out in racking sobs. Nathan moved around the table and pulled her into his arms, letting her cry against his shoulder while he rubbed her back the way Margaret used to do when he'd had nightmares as a child. They stayed like that until Lucas and Sophia appeared in the doorway, their faces alarmed at seeing their strong older sister in tears. What's wrong with Emma? Sophia asked, rushing to her sister's side. She's sad about your mama, Nathan explained. Sometimes sadness needs to come out. Lucas climbed onto Emma's other side, wrapping his small arms around her waist. We're all sad about Mama, but we have each other. And we have the angels, Sophia added. Though she sounded uncertain. Emma pulled back from Nathan's embrace, wiping her eyes. I need to tell you both something about my dream last night. Nathan watched as Emma recounted her dream to her siblings, seeing their faces shift from confusion to fear to determination. By the time she finished, all 3 children were nodding, in agreement about returning to their fasting and outdoor vigil. We've been here too long, Lucas said. We're getting soft. The angels are probably disappointed in us, Sophia added. Nathan felt his heart breaking for these children who'd been taught to equate love with suffering, who couldn't accept comfort without guilt. Before you go, Nathan said, I want to show you something. He led them upstairs to a room they hadn't seen yet, his and Margaret's old bedroom, which he'd left largely unchanged since her death. On the dresser sat a collection of photographs spanning their 12-year marriage. This was my wife, Margaret, Nathan said, picking up their wedding photo. She died of cancer 12 years ago. The children studied the picture with solemn attention. Margaret had been beautiful in a quiet way, with kind eyes and a gentle smile that radiated warmth even through the photograph. She looks nice, Sophia said softly. She was everything good in the world. Nathan set down the photo and picked up another, Margaret in the garden, laughing at something outside the camera's view. When she got sick, I prayed every night for angels to come and heal her. I begged God to send miraculous intervention. Did they come? Lucas asked. No, Nathan said simply. No angels came. Margaret died anyway, and I was left alone. Emma frowned. But that doesn't mean angels aren't real. You're right, Nathan agreed. But it taught me something important. Sometimes the miracle isn't supernatural intervention. Sometimes the miracle is finding the strength to keep living. Sometimes the miracle is other people who care about you. He picked up a third photograph, Margaret with her arms around two young children Nathan didn't recognize. Margaret always wanted children. We tried for years, but it never happened. She used to say that maybe our purpose wasn't to have our own kids, but to be there for children who needed extra love. Nathan looked directly at the three children. Maybe that's what's happening here. Maybe your mother didn't send angels to take you away. Maybe she sent you to someone who needed to learn how to be part of a family again. The children exchanged uncertain glances. Their entire worldview was being challenged, and Nathan could see the internal struggle playing out on their faces. But the angels told us to wait in the orchard, Sophia said weakly. And they told us to eat the dirt, Lucas added. And you did wait, Nathan pointed out, and you did eat the dirt. And what happened? You got weaker and sicker. If these angels really loved you, would they want that? Emma was quiet for a long moment, studying Margaret's photographs. What if we're wrong about everything? She finally whispered. Then you get to build a new everything, Nathan said. You get to choose what to believe based on what makes you stronger, not what makes you suffer. But we promised Mama we'd stay. Together, Lucas said. And you have, Nathan replied. You're still together. You'll always be together. But being together doesn't mean waiting to die. It means building a life where you can take care of each other. Sophia picked up the wedding photo, tracing Margaret's face with her finger. Do you think Mama would like it here? If she could see us? Nathan's vision blurred with tears. I think your mama would be proud that you found somewhere safe. I think she'd want you to be happy. What about the angels? Emma asked. Nathan considered his answer carefully. Maybe the angels were real. Maybe they weren't. But either way, their job was to get you here, to this place where you could heal and grow and be children again. Maybe their message was never about leaving this world. Maybe it was about finding your place in it. The three children huddled together, whispering among themselves with the intensity of people making a life-changing decision. Nathan waited, his heart pounding with the knowledge that everything hung in the balance of this moment. Finally, Emma looked up. If we stayed, she said slowly, if we decided to try being a real family, what would that look like? Nathan felt a rush of hope so strong it made him dizzy. It would look like whatever we wanted it to look like. School, friends, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, skinned knees, bedtime stories, arguments about chores, all the normal, wonderful, terrible things that families do. And we'd really stay together? Lucas asked. Forever, Nathan promised. Whatever legal hoops I have to jump through, whatever paperwork I have to file, we'll figure it out. You three belong together, and you belong here. Sophia set down the photograph and threw her arms around Nathan's waist. I want to stay. I want to be part of your family. Lucas joined the hug, followed by Emma, who was crying again but smiling through her tears. Okay, Emma whispered. Okay. We'll stay. We'll try. Nathan held them close, feeling pieces of his broken heart clicking back into place. We'll more than try, he said. We'll succeed. We're going to be the best family we can figure out how to be. Outside, the morning sun climbed higher in the sky. But for the first time since their arrival, none of the children mentioned going to the orchard. Instead, they stayed in the house that was becoming their home, making plans for a future they were finally ready to embrace. 2 weeks after the children's decision to stay, Nathan found himself sitting across from social services caseworker Diana Foster in his kitchen. his hands wrapped around a coffee mug to keep them from shaking. The children were upstairs, ostensibly doing homework, but probably listening at the top of the stairs. Diana was younger than Nathan had expected. Maybe 35, with tired eyes that suggested she'd seen too much heartbreak in her career. She'd arrived unannounced that morning, following up on what she called irregularities in the Mitchell children's case file. "Mr. Wheeler," Diana said, consulting her tablet, "according to our records, Emma, Lucas, and Sophia Mitchell have been missing from state custody for over a month. We received an anonymous tip that they might be staying here." Nathan's jaw tightened. He'd known this day would come, but he'd hoped for more time to establish some kind of legal foundation for their living situation. "They're safe," he said simply. "I can see that," Diana replied, glancing around the warm kitchen with its signs of family life, children's drawings on the refrigerator, homework spread across the counter, 3 different cereal boxes on the table. "The question is whether this arrangement is in their best interests." "Better than splitting them up," Nathan said, unable to keep the edge from his voice. Diana's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Wheeler, I understand you've grown attached to these children. But caring for 3 traumatized kids isn't something you take on lightly. Do you have any experience with children? Any training in dealing with trauma?" Nathan thought about the past 2 weeks, the nightmares that still woke Sophia crying, Lucas's fear of loud noises, Emma's tendency to hoard food in her dresser drawer, just in case. He thought about the patient conversations, the gentle explanations, the careful rebuilding of trust that happened one small moment at a time. "No formal training," he admitted, "but I've been learning." "And your living situation, income, background check status?" "I own this farm outright. My income is modest but stable." As for background checks, double quotes, Nathan met her eyes directly. "I've never been arrested, never been accused of anything. I'm just a man who found 3 children who needed help." Diana made notes on her tablet. "The children appear healthy and well cared for, I'll give you that. But Mr. Wheeler, there are legal procedures. Foster care certification, home studies, psychological evaluations. You can't just decide to keep 3 children because you want to, even if it's what they want to. Children don't always know what's best for them. That's why we have systems in place." Nathan felt his temper rising. "Your system failed them. They ran away because you were going to split them up. These kids have already lost their mother. Are you really going to take away the only family they have left?" "Mr. Wheeler," Diana said firmly, "I need to speak with the children individually. Standard protocol." Nathan wanted to refuse, but he knew cooperation was his only chance of keeping the family together. "Emma," he called toward the stairs, "could you come down here, please?" Emma appeared in the doorway within seconds, confirming Nathan's suspicion that they'd been listening. Her face was pale but determined, and she carried herself with the dignity of someone much older. "Hi, Emma," Diana said gently. "I'm Diana Foster from Social Services. I just want to ask you a few questions about how you're doing here." Emma sat down at the table, her hands folded in her lap. "I know who you are. You're here to take us away." "I'm here to make sure you're safe and getting what you need," Diana corrected. "Can you tell me how Mr. Wheeler treats you?" "Like family," Emma said without hesitation. "He takes care of us. He feeds us real food, makes sure we have clean clothes, helps with homework. He doesn't yell or hit or make us feel bad about ourselves." "And before you came here, can you tell me about your time at the children's home?" Emma's composure cracked slightly. "They said they had to split us up. They said there weren't any families who could take all 3 of us together. But we promised Mama we'd stay together no matter what, so you ran away." "We left," Emma corrected. "We couldn't let them break up our family." Diana made more notes. "And how did you end up here?" Emma glanced at Nathan, and he could see her calculating how much of the truth to reveal. The story of eating dirt while waiting for angels wouldn't exactly strengthen their case. We were lost and hungry, Emma said carefully. Nathan found us on his property and brought us home. He's been taking care of us ever since. Do you feel safe here? Safer than anywhere since Mama died. Diana nodded and called for Lucas next. The 7-year-old bounded down the stairs with less caution than his sister, his face bright with curiosity rather than fear. Are you a police lady? Lucas asked as he climbed into a chair. Not exactly, Diana smiled. I work to help children. Can you tell me about living here with Mr. Wheeler? Nathan's the best, Lucas said enthusiastically. He taught me how to milk cows, and he lets me help feed the chickens. And he reads us stories at bedtime, even the really long ones. Yesterday, he helped me build a fort in the barn. Do you miss your old home? Before your mother passed away. Lucas's face grew serious. I miss Mama every day. But Nathan says that's okay, that missing someone means you love them a lot. He misses his wife too, so he understands. And do you want to stay here? Forever and ever, Lucas said firmly. This is our home now. Nathan said we're a family. When Sophia came down, she carried a small stuffed rabbit that Nathan had bought her during one of their trips to town. She climbed onto Nathan's lap without asking permission, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed by Diana. Double quotes, hello, Sophia, Diana said. That's a very nice rabbit. Her name is Margaret, Sophia said, stroking the rabbit's ears. Nathan said I could name her after his wife who went to heaven. Diana's professional mask slipped for a moment, revealing genuine emotion. That's a beautiful name. Are you happy here, Sophia? Yes. Nathan makes the best pancakes, and he doesn't get mad when I have bad dreams. He just brings me warm milk and sits with me until I fall asleep again. And your brother and sister? Are you all getting along? We always get along, Sophia said matter-of-factly. We're a team. That's what Mama said. Emma takes care of us, Lucas makes us laugh, and I remember things so we don't forget. What kind of things do you remember? Like how Mama smelled like vanilla and how she used to sing us to sleep, and how she said we were stronger together than apart. Nathan understands that. He says families stick together no matter what. After speaking with each child individually, Diana asked Nathan to join her on the front porch for a private conversation. The autumn air was crisp, and the trees surrounding the farm were ablaze with color. They love you, Diana said without preamble. All 3 of them. And it's clear you love them too. Nathan felt a flicker of hope. They're good kids. They've been through hell, but they're strong. Mr. Wheeler, I'm going to be honest with you. Legally, I should remove these children today and place them back in state custody. You have no legal standing to keep them. Nathan's heart sank. But, Diana continued, removing them would traumatize them further. They found stability here, and frankly, our system is overcrowded and underfunded. Finding a placement that would keep all 3 together, ... She shook her head. It's unlikely. So what happens now? Diana was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the fields that stretched toward the horizon. What happens now is that I didn't find them today. My report will state that the anonymous tip was unfounded, that the children weren't at this location. Nathan stared at her in shock. You're giving us time? I'm giving you a chance, Diana corrected. 3 months to get your paperwork in order. Foster care certification, home study, the works. I'll expedite the process as much as I can, but you need to do this right. And if I can't get certified, Diana's expression grew stern. Then I come back and I take them, no exceptions. These children deserve permanency, Mr. Wheeler. They deserve someone who's committed enough to jump through the hoops. Nathan extended his hand. You have my word. I'll do whatever it takes. Diana shook his hand firmly. I believe you will. Those children have been through enough upheaval. Don't let them down. As Diana's car disappeared down the gravel driveway, Nathan found 3 anxious faces pressed against the living room window. He opened the front door to find them crowded in the entryway, their expressions ranging from hopeful to terrified. "Are we leaving?" Sophia asked in a small voice. Nathan knelt down and opened his arms, gathering all 3 children into a hug. "No, sweetheart, you're staying. We're going to make this official." "What does that mean?" Emma asked. "It means," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion, "that I'm going to become your legal guardian. It means this family is going to be real. In the eyes of the law, not just in our hearts." The relief on their faces was overwhelming. Lucas whooped with joy, Sophia burst into happy tears, and Emma simply held on tight, as if she could anchor them all to this moment through sheer force of will. "There's going to be paperwork," Nathan warned them. "Classes I have to take, inspections, interviews. People are going to ask you a lot of questions about whether you really want to be here." "We do," Emma said fiercely, "more than anything." "Then we'll get through it together," Nathan promised, "because that's what families do." That evening, as Nathan helped with homework and supervised baths and read bedtime stories, he marveled at how completely his life had changed. 2 months ago, he'd been a lonely widower counting down the days until his next veterinary visit or church potluck. Now he was a father to 3 children who'd somehow healed his broken heart while he helped heal theirs. Later, after the children were asleep, Nathan sat in his recliner and pulled out his phone. He had calls to make, to lawyers, to social workers, to anyone who could help him navigate the complex process of legal guardianship. But first, he did something he hadn't done in 12 years. He looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "Thank you, Margaret. Thank you for preparing me for this." Outside, the wind rustled through the apple trees in the orchard where 3 desperate children had once eaten dirt while waiting for angels. But the only angels they'd needed had been sitting right here in this house all along, in the form of second chances, unexpected love, and the miraculous ordinary magic of becoming a family. Nathan Wheeler, the loner farmer who'd thought his story was over, discovered that sometimes the best chapters are the ones you never saw coming. And sometimes the greatest miracles happen not when angels descend from heaven, but when broken people choose to save each other. 3 months later, when the final paperwork was signed and Emma, Lucas, and Sophia officially became Wheeler children, they celebrated with a party in the same orchard where their journey had begun. But instead of eating dirt and waiting to leave this world, they planted an apple tree together, roots deep in the earth, branches reaching toward the sky, growing stronger with each passing season, just like a family should. 6 months had passed since the adoption papers were finalized, and Wheeler Farm had transformed into something Nathan barely recognized. The house that had once echoed with loneliness now rang with the sounds of children arguing over bathroom time, practicing piano scales on the old upright Margaret had loved, and racing through the halls in sock feet despite repeated warnings. About the hardwood floors, spring had arrived early that year, and Nathan was teaching Lucas how to operate the tractor when Emma came running across the field, her face flushed with excitement and something that looked like fear. "Nathan," she called, waving a piece of paper above her head. "Nathan, you need to see this." Nathan cut the engine and climbed down from the tractor, Lucas scrambling after him. Emma thrust the paper into his hands, breathing hard from her sprint. Across the pasture, it was a letter, addressed to the Mitchell children at Wheeler Farm. The return address made Nathan's blood run cold. Robert Mitchell, P.O. Box 847, Phoenix, Arizona. "Your father," Nathan said quietly. "He found us," Emma whispered. "Somehow he found us." Lucas pressed closer to Nathan's side. "What does it say?" Nathan unfolded the letter with careful hands, his mind already racing through the legal implications. The children had been in state custody when Robert Mitchell abandoned them. Nathan's guardianship was legal and binding. But biology had a way of complicating even the most straightforward situations. The letter was brief and written in a shaky hand. Dear Emma, Lucas, and Sophia, I know I got no right to contact you after what I done. Been sober 8 months now, working a program, trying to make amends. Found out through a social worker friend that you kids got adopted by some farmer up in Millbrook County. I ain't asking for nothing I don't deserve. Just want to see you're okay. Maybe explain why I left. Maybe say sorry proper like. If you don't want to see me, I understand. But I'm staying at the Pineview Motel on Route 9 until Sunday. Room 12. Your father, Robert Mitchell Nathan, read the letter twice before looking up at Emma's anxious face. What do you want to do? I don't know, Emma admitted. I'm so angry at him I can barely see straight, but ... But he's still your father. Nathan finished gently. He left us, Lucas said, his voice small but fierce. When Mama died, he just left us like we were nothing. Sophia had appeared from the house, drawn by the commotion. What's happening? Why does everyone look upset? Emma knelt down and took her youngest sister's hands. Our birth father is here. In town. He wants to see us. Sophia's eyes widened. The daddy who went away? Yes. Why did he come back? It was such a simple question, but it cut straight to the heart of the matter. Nathan studied the letter again, looking for clues in the careful handwriting, the formal tone, the specific mention of sobriety and amends. Sounds like he's been getting help, Nathan said carefully. People who struggle with drinking sometimes have to go away to get better. But he didn't have to leave us, Emma said, her voice sharp with old pain. He could have gotten help and kept us safe. Nathan pulled all 3 children closer, feeling their tension like a physical force. You're right. He made choices that hurt you badly. The question now is what choices you want to make. Do we have to see him? Lucas asked. Absolutely not, Nathan said firmly. You don't owe him anything. If you never want to see him again, that's your right. I'm your legal guardian now, and my job is to protect you from anything that might hurt you. But what if he really is different? Sophia asked. What if he's sorry? Emma stood up abruptly, pacing to the fence and back. I keep thinking about what Mama would want. She loved him once. She married him. She thought he was good enough to be our father. Your Mama also protected you from him when he wasn't being a good father, Nathan pointed out. She would want you to be safe first, forgiving second. Lucas tugged on Nathan's sleeve. If we did see him, would you come with us? If you wanted me there, absolutely. Emma stopped pacing and looked at her siblings. I think we should see him. Just once, so we can ask him all the questions we've been carrying around. I'm scared, Sophia admitted. Me too, Lucas said. But maybe Emma's right. Maybe we need to know why. Nathan felt a mixture of pride and concern as he watched these children wrestle with a decision no child should have to make. They'd grown so much in the past months, developing the kind of emotional maturity that came from surviving trauma and finding healing on the other side. If we do this, Nathan said, we do it on our terms. Public place, limited time, and I'm there the whole time. The moment any of you feel uncomfortable, we leave. No questions asked. Emma nodded. The diner on Main Street. Tomorrow at lunch, 1 hour. I'll call him, Nathan said, folding the letter and putting it in his pocket. You 3 don't have to talk to him until you're face to face, if that's what you decide. The rest of the day passed in a strange suspension of normalcy. The children went through their usual routines, chores, homework, dinner, but Nathan could feel the undercurrent of anxiety running through the house like an electrical charge. Emma was quieter than usual. Lucas kept asking the same questions over and over, and Sophia clung to Nathan's side like a shadow. That evening, after he'd tucked the children into bed and assured them multiple times that seeing their father wouldn't change anything about their life at the farm, Nathan sat on his front porch and dialed the number for the Pineview Motel. Room 12. he said when the desk clerk answered. The phone rang 4 times before a gravelly voice answered. "Hello, Mr. Mitchell? This is Nathan Wheeler. I'm the legal guardian of your children." There was a long silence on the other end. "They got your letter," Nathan continued. "They're willing to meet with you tomorrow. 1 hour at Maggie's Diner on Main Street, noon. I'll be there with them." "Thank you," Robert Mitchell said, his voice rough with emotion. "I wasn't sure they'd want to see me." "They're brave kids," Nathan said. "But Mr. Mitchell, I need to be clear about something. These children have been through hell. They've finally found stability and happiness. If you do anything to disrupt that, if you make any promises you can't keep, I will make sure you never get near them again." "I understand," Robert said quietly. "I just want to apologize, to see they're okay. I don't expect anything more than that." "Good," Nathan said. "Because that's all you're going to get." The next morning dawned gray and drizzly, matching the mood in the Wheeler household. Emma had barely touched her breakfast. Lucas had changed his clothes 3 times. And Sophia kept asking if they could take Margaret the rabbit with them for comfort. Nathan had spent the night researching Robert Mitchell, using resources he'd learned about during the guardianship process. The man had a history of alcohol-related arrests, job instability, and what the social workers diplomatically called failure to provide adequate care. But he also had no record of violence, and his recent address was connected to a residential treatment facility. "Remember," Nathan said as they climbed into his truck, "this doesn't change anything about our family. You're my children, legally, and in every way that matters. This is just a conversation with someone from your past." "What if he wants us to come live with him?" Sophia asked from the back seat. "Then we tell him that's not happening," Emma said firmly. "We have a home now." Nathan caught her eye in the rearview mirror and smiled. "That's right, you do." Maggie's Diner was busy with the lunch crowd, but Nathan had called ahead and secured a corner booth that would give them privacy without being isolated. They arrived 10 minutes early and ordered drinks, the children sitting close together on one side of the booth while Nathan took the other side, positioning himself where he could see the entire restaurant. At exactly noon, a man walked through the front door who looked like an older, more weathered version of Lucas. Robert Mitchell was tall and thin, with graying hair and clothes that were clean but showed signs of wear. His eyes scanned the restaurant until they found their table, and Nathan watched as his face crumpled with emotion at the sight of his children. He approached slowly, as if afraid they might bolt. "Emma? Lucas? Sophia?" "Hi, Dad," Emma said quietly, her voice carefully neutral. Robert slid into the booth across from them, his hands shaking as he folded them on the table. Up close, Nathan could see the toll that alcohol and guilt had taken on the man. He looked older than his 42 years, with deep lines around his eyes and a permanent expression of regret. "You've all grown so much," Robert said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Emma, you look just like your mama. And Lucas, you're tall as a weed. And Sophia ... his voice broke. "You were so little when I left. Why did you leave us?" Lucas asked, the question bursting out of him like water through a dam. Robert flinched as if he'd been slapped. "Because I was a coward. Because I was drunk more than I was sober, and I knew I couldn't take care of you the way you deserved. I thought the state would find you a good family, keep you together. They tried to split us up," Emma said, her voice hard. "We had to run away." "I know," Robert said, tears streaming down his face. "I found out later. If I'd known. God, if I'd known what would happen, I never would have." "But you did know," Emma continued relentlessly. "You knew we needed you, and you left anyway." Nathan watched the exchange carefully, ready to intervene if it became too much for any of them. But he could see that Emma needed to say these things, needed to confront the man who'd abandoned them when they needed him most. "You're right," Robert said simply. "There's no excuse for what I did." I was supposed to protect you, and instead I ran away when things got hard." "Mama never ran away," Sophia said quietly. "Even when she was tired and sad and sick, she never left us." "Your mama was 10 times the person I'll ever be," Robert agreed. "She deserved better than me, and you kids deserved better than what I gave you." Lucas had been quiet, studying his father's face with the intensity of someone trying to reconcile memory with reality. "Are you still sick?" he asked. "I'm getting better," Robert said. "I go to meetings every day. I have a sponsor. I'm working the steps. But I'll always be an alcoholic, Lucas. That's something I have to fight every single day for the rest of my life." "Why should we believe you?" Emma asked. "You promised Mama you'd quit drinking lots of times." Robert nodded, accepting the accusation. "You shouldn't believe me. I haven't earned that right. I can only tell you that I'm trying to be different, and hope that someday I might be able to prove it to you." Nathan had been silent throughout the exchange, but now he spoke up. "Mr. Mitchell, what exactly are you hoping to accomplish here?" Robert looked at Nathan with a mixture of gratitude and shame. "I want to thank you for taking care of my children. I want them to know how sorry I am. And I want them to know that even though I failed them, they were never anything but wanted and loved." "We know Mama loved us," Sophia said, "but you left." "I did, and that's something I'll regret for the rest of my life." Robert reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photo, placing it on the table. It showed Sarah Mitchell holding baby Sophia, with Emma and Lucas crowding close on either side. All 4 of them were laughing at something outside the camera's view. "I've carried this picture with me every day since your mama died," Robert said. "It reminds me of what I lost when I chose drinking over my family." Emma stared at the photo, her composure finally cracking. "I remember that day. We were at the park and Lucas fell in the duck pond. And Mame laughed so hard she snorted," Lucas added, a tiny smile breaking through his wariness. "She was beautiful when she laughed." Robert said softly, "Just like you are, Sophia." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of memory and loss settling over the table. Nathan could see the children processing complex emotions, anger, grief, confusion, and underneath it all, a stubborn core of love that couldn't be entirely erased by abandonment. "What happens now?" Emma asked finally. "Now you go home with Nathan," Robert said. "You live your lives, you grow up safe and loved, and you don't worry about me. I signed away my parental rights officially last week. Nathan is your father now, in every way that matters." Nathan felt a surge of surprise and respect. Whatever else Robert Mitchell was, he was putting his children's needs ahead of his own desires. "But," Robert continued, "if someday you want to write to me, or call, or meet again, I'd like that. Not because I think I deserve it, but because you're the best thing I ever helped create, and I'd be honored to know the people you become." Emma reached across the table and picked up the photograph. "Can we keep this?" "It's yours," Robert said. "It always was." The hour was almost up, and Nathan could see the emotional exhaustion on all their faces. "I think it's time to go," he said gently. Robert nodded and stood up. "Thank you for giving me this chance. And thank you, Nathan, for being the father I should have been." As they prepared to leave, Sophia surprised everyone by sliding out of the booth and hugging her birth father around the waist. "I hope you stay better," she said simply. Robert knelt down to her level, his eyes bright with tears. "Me too, sweetheart." "Me too." On the drive home, the children were quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. It wasn't until they were back at the farm, sitting around the kitchen table with hot chocolate and homemade cookies, that anyone spoke. "How do you feel?" Nathan asked. "Sad," Sophia said immediately, "but not the bad kind of sad. The missing someone is kind of sad." "Confused," Lucas admitted. "He seemed different than I remembered, smaller maybe." Emma was quiet for a long time before speaking. "I'm glad we saw him. I needed to tell him how angry I was." But I'm also glad we don't have to see him again unless we want to. And do you? Want to? Ethan asked. Maybe someday, Emma said slowly. When I'm older and not so angry. Maybe I'll want to know how his story ends. Nathan nodded, understanding. That's very mature of you. All of you. Nathan? Lucas said. This doesn't change anything, does it? About us being a family? Nathan pulled all three children into a hug, holding them close against his heart. Nothing could change that. You're stuck with me forever, whether you like it or not. Good, Sophia said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. Because I really, really like it. That evening, as Nathan helped with homework and supervised baths and read bedtime stories, he marveled at the resilience of the human heart. These children had faced their painful past, acknowledged their complex feelings, and emerged stronger for it. They'd learned that forgiveness didn't require forgetting, that love could coexist with disappointment, and that families were built not just on biology, but on choice and commitment. The encounter with Robert Mitchell had been a test of sorts, not just for the children, but for Nathan as well. He'd had to trust that the foundation they'd built together was strong enough to withstand the earthquake of their birth father's return. And it had been. As he turned off the lights and headed to his own room, Nathan paused at each child's doorway, listening to their steady breathing and feeling grateful beyond words for the twisted path that had brought them all together. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new growth, new joys and sorrows. But tonight, his children were safe and loved and home. And that was everything that mattered. 1 year after the children's first day at Millbrook Elementary, Nathan received a phone call that changed everything. He was fixing a broken fence post when his cell phone rang, showing an unfamiliar number with a local area code. Mr. Wheeler? This is Principal Richardson from the school. I need you to come in immediately. There's been an incident involving Lucas. Nathan's heart stopped. Is he hurt? Not physically, but Mr. Wheeler, we need to discuss this in person. Can you be here in 20 minutes? The drive to school felt like the longest 20 minutes of Nathan's life. His mind raced through possibilities, fights, accidents, behavioral problems. Lucas had been doing so well, making friends, excelling in his classes. What could have happened? Principal Richardson met him in the main office, her usually warm demeanor replaced by professional concern. Mr. Wheeler, please sit down. Nathan remained standing. Where's Lucas? What happened? Lucas is fine. He's with the school counselor right now. But we had a very serious incident today during recess. She gestured to a chair across from her. Desk, please. Nathan finally sat, his hands clenched in his lap. Tell me. Another student, Tyler Morrison, was bullying the younger child. When Lucas intervened, Tyler started saying some very hurtful things about Lucas's family situation. About how he was adopted, how his real parents didn't want him. Nathan's jaw tightened. He'd known this day would come eventually. Children could be cruel about anything that made others different. Lucas handled it well initially, Principal Richardson continued. He told Tyler to stop and tried to walk away. But then Tyler said something about Lucas's mother being dead because she was ashamed of him. Nathan felt rage building in his chest. And Lucas attacked him. It took 2 teachers to pull him off. Tyler has a black eye and a bloody nose. Nathan closed his eyes, seeing Lucas in his mind. Gentle Lucas who talked to the barn cats like they were people, who cried when they had to put down a sick chicken, who'd never shown a violent impulse in the entire time Nathan had known him. Where is Lucas now? With Mrs. Chun, our counselor. Mr. Wheeler, I have to tell you, our policy on fighting is very clear. Normally, this would result in a 3-day suspension. Normally? Principal Richardson's expression softened slightly. But Mrs. Chun and I have reviewed Lucas's file. We understand the trauma these children have experienced. And several witnesses confirmed that Tyler was the aggressor, both physically and verbally. Nathan leaned forward. What are you saying? We're willing to work with you on this. 1 day of in-school suspension, mandatory counseling sessions, and a restorative justice meeting with Tyler and his parents. But Mr. Wheeler, Lucas needs help processing what happened today. The things Tyler said clearly triggered something deep. Can I see him? Of course. Nathan found Lucas in Mrs. Chien's office, sitting in a chair that seemed to swallow his small frame. His knuckles were scraped, his shirt was torn, and his face was streaked with tears. When he saw Nathan, he launched himself across the room. I'm sorry, Lucas sobbed against Nathan's chest. I'm sorry I fought. I'm sorry I got in trouble. I'm sorry I'm not good enough. Stop, Nathan said firmly, holding Lucas tight. You have nothing to apologize for. But I hurt Tyler. You always said fighting doesn't solve anything. Nathan looked over Lucas's head at Mrs. Chun, who nodded encouragingly. Lucas, look at me. Lucas pulled back, his face red and blotchy from crying. What Tyler said about your mother was cruel and wrong. Your mother loved you more than anything in the world. She died because she was sick, not because of anything you or Emma or Sophia did. But Tyler said lies because he wanted to hurt you. And when someone attacks your family, your mama's memory, it makes sense that you got angry. So you're not mad at me? Nathan knelt down to Lucas's eye level. I'm proud that you stood up for someone being bullied. I'm proud that you defended your family. I wish you hadn't had to use your fists to do it, but I understand why you did. Lucas's shoulders sagged with relief. Tyler's parents are really mad. They want me to get expelled. That's not going to happen, Nathan said with certainty. You're not going anywhere. The ride home was quiet, Lucas staring out the window with the exhausted expression of someone who'd used up all their emotional energy. But when they pulled into the driveway, Emma and Sophia came running from the house, having been dismissed early from their respective classes. Lucas! Sophia threw her arms around her brother before he was fully out of the truck. Are you okay? Mrs. Patterson said you were in a fight. I'm fine, Lucas mumbled, but Nathan could see he was embarrassed. Emma studied her brother's face with the practiced eye of someone who'd been taking care of him since birth. What happened? As they walked toward the house, Lucas recounted the incident, his voice growing stronger as he described standing up for the younger student, but faltering when he got to Tyler's cruel words about their mother. Tyler Morrison is a jerk, Emma said matter-of-factly. He told me last month that adopted kids don't count as a real family. Nathan stopped walking. He said what? I ignored him, Emma said quickly. But Lucas, you didn't have to fight him. Words are just words. Not about Mama, Lucas said fiercely. Nobody gets to say mean things about Mama. Sophia nodded solemnly. Mama was the best mama in the whole world. If someone said she wasn't, I'd want to fight them too. That evening, after homework was done and dinner was finished, Nathan found himself in an unexpected position. The school counselor had recommended family therapy to help the children process not just today's incident, but the ongoing challenges of being adopted children in a small town where everyone knew their story. Do we have to go to therapy? Emma asked when Nathan brought up the suggestion. Mrs. Chun thinks it might help, Nathan said carefully. Not because anything's wrong with any of you, but because talking to someone outside our family might give you tools for handling situations like today. I don't want to talk to a stranger about our family, Sophia said, curling up closer to Nathan on the couch. What if it wasn't a stranger? Nathan asked. What if it was someone who understood what you've been through? Over the next few days, Nathan researched therapists who specialized in adoption and trauma. He found Dr. Sarah Kim, a woman who'd been adopted herself and worked specifically with families like theirs. After a phone consultation, Nathan felt hopeful that she might be able to help them navigate the complex emotions that came with their unique situation. The first therapy session was scheduled for the following week. But before they could make it that far, another crisis emerged. On Thursday evening, Nathan was helping Sophia with an art project when Emma burst through the front door, her face flushed with anger and something that looked like fear. "Nathan, we need to talk," she said, her voice tight with control. "What's wrong?" Emma glanced at her siblings, then back at Nathan. "Privately." Nathan followed Emma to the kitchen, his mind already racing through possibilities. At 13, Emma was dealing with typical teenage challenges on top of her unique family situation. He'd been dreading the day when those two forces would collide. "Mrs. Patterson assigned a family tree project," Emma said without preamble. Nathan felt his heart sink. Of all the thoughtless assignments teachers gave, family trees were particularly cruel for children with complicated family histories. "I see," Nathan said carefully. "She said we had to go back 3 generations and include pictures and stories about our relatives." Emma's voice was rising with each word. "She said it would help us understand our heritage and family traditions." "What did you tell her?" "I told her our situation was complicated and asked if I could do something different. But she said everyone has to do the same project, that I needed to dig deeper into my family history." Nathan felt anger building in his chest. He'd dealt with well-meaning but clueless educators before, but this was particularly insensitive. "She suggested I contact our birth father to get information about his side of the family," Emma continued, her voice cracking. "She said it would be a good opportunity to reconnect with our roots." Nathan saw red. "She said what?" "And when I explained that our birth father had abandoned us and we were adopted, she said that adoptive families aren't the same as biological families for the purposes of genealogy." Nathan was already reaching for his coat. "Where are you going?" Emma asked. "To school. To have a conversation with Mrs. Patterson." "Nathan, don't make it worse." "Emma, listen to me. You are my daughter. Lucas and Sophia are my children. This is your family, your heritage, your traditions. No teacher has the right to suggest otherwise." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But what if she's right? What if we're not really your family because we don't share DNA?" Nathan stopped putting on his coat and pulled Emma into a fierce hug. "DNA doesn't make a family. Love does. Commitment does. Choosing to stick together through good times and bad does. By every measure that matters, you 3 are more my children than if I'd been there when you were born. But the family tree will include 3 generations of Wheelers because that's who you are now. My parents, my grandparents, Margaret's family, your family." The next morning, Nathan arrived at school 30 minutes before classes started, requesting an immediate meeting with Mrs. Patterson. The 6th grade teacher was a woman in her 50s, who'd been teaching for over 20 years, and Nathan could tell she thought this was much ado about nothing. "Mr. Wheeler, I understand your concern, but family history projects are standard curriculum. Emma needs to learn about her biological heritage." "Mrs. Patterson, with all due respect, Emma's biological heritage includes a mother who died of heart failure at 28 and a father who abandoned his children. Her heritage now includes farmers and teachers and military veterans who chose to love her. That's the heritage that matters. But for genealogical purposes, for all purposes," Nathan interrupted. "Emma Wheeler's family tree starts with me and my wife. Everything before that is history, not family." Mrs. Patterson's expression hardened. "Mr. Wheeler, I've been teaching for 23 years, and in 23 years, have you never had a student with a complicated family situation? Single parents? Divorced families? Foster children? Adoptees? Well, yes, but then you should know better than to assign a project that makes children feel excluded from their own families." The conversation continued for another 10 minutes, with Nathan calmly but firmly explaining why the assignment was problematic and Mrs. Patterson gradually realizing she'd made a significant error in judgment. "What would you suggest?" she finally asked. Let Emma do a project on the traditions and history of the Wheeler family. Let her research the farm, interview me about my parents and grandparents, learn about the heritage she's now part of. Make it about family traditions rather than biological trees. Mrs. Patterson nodded slowly. I suppose that would work. And it might actually be more meaningful than just dates and names. When Nathan returned home, he found all 3 children waiting anxiously in the kitchen. What happened? Emma asked immediately. You're going to research the Wheeler family history. Nathan said. 3 generations of farmers, teachers, and stubborn people who don't give up on the things they love. Emma's face lit up. Really? Really? And Mrs. Patterson is going to revise the assignment for other students who might have similar situations. That afternoon, Nathan pulled out boxes of family photographs, documents, and mementos he hadn't looked at in years. He spread them across the dining room table and called the children over. This is your great-grandfather, William Wheeler, Nathan sighed, pointing to a sepia-tone photograph of a stern-looking man in overalls. He bought this farm in 1943 with money he saved from working in the coal mines. He looks serious, Sophia observed. He was, but he was also kind. He used to let neighborhood children come pick apples from the orchard for free every fall. Nathan pulled out another photo, a woman in a flour-dusted apron, smiling at the parley. Camera, this is your great-grandmother, Ruth. She taught school for 40 years and raised 5 children. She could make biscuits that would make you cry, they were so good. Will you teach us how to make them? Lucas asked. I don't know the recipe, but I bet we could figure it out together. For the next 2 hours, Nathan shared stories he hadn't told in years. Stories about his father who could fix anything with determination and spare parts. About his mother who never met a stray animal she wouldn't feed. About Margaret's family of teachers and librarians who believed education could change the world. These are your stories now, Nathan told them. This is your heritage. The Wheeler family has always been about hard work, stubbornness, and taking care of people who need help. You 3 fit right in. Emma was taking careful notes, already planning her project. Can I interview you on video? For the presentation? Of course. But Emma, I want you to include your mother too. Sarah Mitchell is part of the Wheeler family history now. She's part of what made you who you are, and that makes her part of our heritage. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. Thank you, she whispered that evening, as Nathan helped with homework and supervised the usual bedtime routine. He reflected on how much their family had grown and changed. Each challenge they faced seemed to make them stronger, more united, more certain that they belonged together. The upcoming therapy sessions, Lucas's fight at school, Emma's family tree project, they were all tests of the foundation that they'd built together. And so far, that foundation was holding strong. As he turned off the lights and headed to his own room, Nathan realized that the children weren't the only ones who'd been adopted. They'd adopted him too, pulling him out of his isolation and loneliness, giving him purpose and joy he'd thought he'd lost forever. The Wheeler family was more than the sum of its parts, stronger because of their struggles, united not by blood, but by choice. And tomorrow would bring new opportunities to prove that love, not genetics, was what made a family real. 2 years later, Nathan stood at his kitchen window watching 3 teenagers work in the vegetable garden Margaret had once tended. Emma, now 15, directed her brothers with the quiet authority she'd always possessed, while 13-year-old Lucas argued good-naturedly about the proper spacing for tomato plants. Sophia, 11 now and tall for her age, knelt between the rows with dirt under her fingernails and pure contentment on her face. The irony wasn't lost on Nathan. These children who'd once eaten dirt in desperation now grew food from that same earth, nurturing life instead of merely surviving. Dad? Sophia's voice called from the garden. Can we plant some wildflowers by the orchard? For the bees? Dad! The word still sent a warm rush through Nathan's chest, even after hearing it hundreds of times. He'd never imagined that a single syllable could carry so much weight, so much love, so much belonging. "Whatever you think the garden needs," Nathan called back. Earning a whoop of joy from Sophia. Today marked the 3rd anniversary of the day he'd found them in the orchard. The children had asked if they could visit the spot where it all began. Not to sing to angels this time, but to plant something beautiful. Nathan had readily agreed, understanding their need to reclaim that space, to transform it from a place of desperate faith into something hopeful. The morning had started with Emma's specialty pancakes, a recipe she'd perfected through years of experimentation, adding her own touches to Nathan's basic ingredients. Lucas had done his Saturday chores without being asked, and Sophia had organized the mudroom with military precision, as was her way. They were a family now in all the ways that mattered. Report cards were signed by Nathan Wheeler, permission slips bore his signature, and when teachers called home, they asked to speak with Dad. The children had his last name, his medical insurance, and his unconditional love. But more than the legal documents, they shared something deeper: inside jokes and family traditions. Arguments about whose turn it was to feed the chickens. Shared grief when the old barn cat died, and shared joy when Lucas finally mastered riding the ancient bicycle Nathan had found at a yard sale. Dr. Kim had helped them navigate the complex emotions that came with their unconventional beginning. Through family therapy sessions, they'd learned to talk about their feelings instead of burying them. They'd processed their grief over Sarah Mitchell, their complicated feelings about Robert Mitchell, and their gratitude for finding each other. The beauty of chosen families, Dr. Kim had told them during one of their final sessions, is that they're built on intention. Every day, you all choose to be a family. That makes your bonds even stronger than biology. As Nathan prepared lunch, Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face serious in the way that meant she had something important to discuss. "Dad, can we talk?" Nathan set down his sandwich-making supplies and gave her his full attention. At 15, Emma had grown into a remarkable young woman, intelligent, compassionate, and fiercely protective of her family. She'd inherited her mother's beauty, but had developed her own strength through their shared struggles. "What's on your mind?" Emma sat at the kitchen table, choosing her words carefully. "I've been thinking about college. About what I want to study." Nathan felt a familiar pang, pride mixed with the bittersweet knowledge that his children were growing up, becoming independent. "What are you considering?" "Social work. I want to help kids like we were. Kids who fall through the cracks, who need someone to advocate for them." Nathan wasn't surprised. Emma had always been drawn to helping others, always been the one to defend the underdog at school or befriend the lonely kid in class. "That's a big commitment," Nathan said. "It can be emotionally difficult work, I know. But Dr. Kim says sometimes our hardest experiences prepare us to help others going through similar things. I want to be the person who makes sure no sibling group gets separated if there's any way to keep them together." Nathan felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Your mother would be so proud of the woman you're becoming." "Both my mothers," Emma corrected gently. "Sarah gave me life, but Margaret's family traditions gave me values. And you gave me the confidence to believe I could make a difference." They were interrupted by Lucas bursting through the back door, his face flushed with excitement. "Dad, Emma, come see what we found." Nathan and Emma followed Lucas to the edge of the property, where Sophia stood beside what appeared to be a small gravestone partially hidden by overgrown weeds. "Look," Sophia said, carefully brushing away years of accumulated dirt and debris. The stone was old and weathered, but the inscription was still legible. "Margaret Wheeler, beloved wife." She made everything beautiful. Nathan's knees nearly gave out. "I've been looking for this for 12 years, he whispered. After Margaret's death, Nathan had commissioned a memorial stone to place in her favorite spot on the property, near the orchard, where she'd planned to watch their children play someday. But in his grief and confusion, he'd forgotten exactly where he'd placed it, and over the years, nature had reclaimed it. "This is where she wanted to be remembered," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. "She used to sit here and plan the family we'd have someday." Emma knelt beside the stone, tracing the letters with her finger. "She knew we were coming, didn't she? Somehow she knew." "Maybe she did," Nathan said. "Margaret always believed things happened for a reason, that love finds a way." Sophia looked up at Nathan with serious eyes. "Should we put flowers here, like people do in cemeteries?" "We could," Nathan said. "Or we could do something Margaret would have liked even better." "What?" Nathan smiled, the first genuine smile he'd felt since discovering the memorial. "We could have our family picnics here." Margaret always said the best memorials were the ones where families gathered to celebrate being together. That afternoon, they cleared the area around Margaret's stone, creating a small garden space with benches Nathan had built years ago but never assembled. Emma planted roses, Margaret's favorite flowers, while Lucas and Sophia arranged smooth river rocks in decorative patterns. As they worked, Nathan told them stories about Margaret he'd never shared before. How she'd sung off-key in the shower, but with such joy it didn't matter. How she'd saved every stray animal in the county and usually convinced Nathan to let them stay. How she'd believed that love was something you did, not just something you felt. "She sounds like she would have been a wonderful mother," Sophia said, patting down the soil around a newly planted rosebush. "She would have loved you three beyond measure," Nathan said with certainty. "You're everything she dreamed of when she imagined our family." As the sun began to set, they gathered their tools and headed back to the house for dinner. But Nathan lingered for a moment, looking back at the memorial garden they'd created. "Thank you, Margaret," he whispered. "Thank you for preparing me for them." That evening, after homework was finished and the children were in bed, Nathan sat on his front porch with a cup of coffee and his phone. He scrolled through photos from the past 3 years, birthday parties and Christmas mornings, first days of school and family vacations, ordinary moments that had become extraordinary because they were shared. There was Emma at her 8th grade graduation, beaming with pride as she accepted an award for community service. Lucas at his first Little League game, determination written all over his face as he swung at a pitch. Sophia performing in the school talent show, singing with the same pure voice that had once called to angels in desperation, but now called the audiences in joy. Nathan's phone buzzed with a text from Pastor Hartwell. "Saw the kids at the garden center today buying flowers. Emma said you were creating a memorial space. If you need help with anything, just ask. You've built something beautiful, Nathan." It was true. They had built something beautiful. Not just a family, but a life filled with purpose and love, and the kind of ordinary miracles that happened when people chose to take care of each other. Inside the house, Nathan could hear the familiar sounds of his family settling in for the night. Lucas practicing guitar in his room, Emma on the phone with her study group, Sophia reading aloud to her collection of stuffed animals. Normal sounds. Family sounds. Nathan Wheeler, who'd thought his story was over at 50, had discovered that sometimes the most important chapters were the ones you never saw coming. 3 children who'd once believed angels would rescue them had instead rescued a lonely farmer and taught him that angels came in all sorts of unexpected forms. As he headed inside to check on his children one last time before bed, Nathan realized that the dirt those desperate children had eaten in the orchard had indeed been special, had indeed contained healing power. Not because of supernatural intervention, but because it had led them home. Home to Wheeler Farm, where broken people learned to be whole again, where chosen families proved stronger than biological ones, and where love grew as surely and steadily as the crops in the fields. The angels they'd been waiting for had been there all along, disguised as second chances, unexpected grace, and the ordinary miracle of people choosing to save each other. And that was the most beautiful kind of magic there was. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.